Morning, everybody. My name's Darlene, and I have Parkinson's. Today, I was wondering what I should talk about, and then I decided that I was going to tell a little bit more about off time. There's different ways of saying it. Some doctors refer to it on and off. Some people say my body works, my body doesn't work. Some people say I freeze. I sort of say them all at different times. The one that I tend to use quite often is my body isn't working. And with Parkinson's, what happens is the message from your brain doesn't get to your body. So when your medicine works, your brain and your body are working together. And you can do things. When your medicine is not working and you're having your off time, your body doesn't get any messages from your brain. Now, it's not that your brain is not thinking, because your brain is still thinking. It's just not getting the message to your body. So therefore, your body freezes. Now, right now, I'm sort of halfway in between. I'm coming off of an off time, and I've just started to get a little bit of movement. So I figured I could do this without too much difficulty right now, but I haven't got full movement yet. So you will notice that I'm not wiggling as much as I do when I'm fully on. Now I'm feeling tinglies in my feet and my hands, which means that pretty soon you'll notice that my body will start doing a lot more movement. You would almost think that when your body is in such constant movement, that the break and having that still time would be nice, but it's not. Because when your body is moving and working, you don't have the same pain. But when your body stops working, you have incredible pain, because it's like all your joints are stiffened with like cement. They don't move. You can't bend your ankles and things like that. And holding that tight and that still is very painful. So therefore, most people do not like their off time. And you tend to get more and more off time as the disease progresses. Before my new medication, which was the patch, my medication for every 3 hour cycle, I was getting an hour and a half of good time and an hour and a half of off time. And that was almost untenable to me because I couldn't plan or do anything. I am now getting a very quick turnaround on my off time. It's 3:25 in the afternoon, the day before I'm going to post this video, and my medicine was due at 3 o'clock. So 25 minutes later, I've now got movement going. So sometimes it's even faster than that. Sometimes it's a bit slower. But my off time used to start way an hour before time for my medicine. Now the off time doesn't seem to start as early. It starts much later. So I end up having more good time than bad time with this patch. Now, I do know that that's not going to last. I do know that the patch has to increase. From what I understand, I'm on a 1 milligram patch and I can go up to 8 milligrams, but it's not covered by my medical. And so therefore, I'm not sure how that works with the increases. Now, does that mean that I have to pay more for the patch, or is it still one patch and therefore the same price? I don't know. I'm wanting to extend the length of every one of those increases as long as possible, because I don't know that there's another step after that. I'm not a candidate for the surgery that is possible. So therefore, the surgery works for people who have a high degree of tremor, and I do not have a high degree of tremor at all. That was never one of my major symptoms. So I guess what I want to say, if I'm trying to be clear about what off time is the time that you don't look forward to. If it happens to you while you're sitting in your chair, then you have difficulty if you have to get up to go somewhere. If it happens to you when you're up going somewhere, you have difficulty getting back to your chair, and then you can't get in your chair comfortably. You sit uncomfortably until it passes. If you want to lay down and have a sleep and you're in off time, you can't get into your bed. So therefore, you're stuck sitting up. And I will say, I had a lovely sleep last night. I was very fortunate. I had very little off time. I had a long stretch of sleeping, which was great because the night before I had literally had 1 hour sleep, and I had it in 2 sessions of half an hour. So therefore, that was a disastrous night for me because the next day I was so tired. And when you're tired or stressed or upset, then what happens is your medicine doesn't work as effectively. And that's when you get your off time, is when your medicine isn't working. So it's an old chase the pill deal, like you start off with, 4 pills in the course of a day, and before you know it, I'm at 18 of the, what they call the gold medicine. It's Sinemet, but I have a generic version of it, but I'm at 18 pills a day of it, plus 2 long-lasting Sinemet for overnight, and now the patch. So it's an awful lot of medication, which that was never my way of handling things, going through life, but you don't get to pick and choose what happens to you, and this is what happens. So I want to end on a positive. So instead of saying this is what happens with off time, I'm going to say I'm going to tell a little story. Now, I'm going to tell a story that most of my family has not heard. And it happened a very long time ago. Now, one of the ways of saying you're having your off time is to say you're frozen. And I was thinking to myself, now what kind of a story could I tell that would have anything to do with this off time? And the only thing I could come up with was frozen with fear. And I have the story for that. We went one time to Seattle to go touring around and whatnot, and we went to a fish ladder. Now, in Seattle, there's what they call the locks, where the water is at one level in the Lake Union Lake, and then the ocean level is much different. So therefore, the boats from the lake, they go into the locks, just like what is the canal down in the States, the big canal that goes from the 2 sides? Not Suez Canal, but...
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. We don't know what the name of that is. I do know it. I can't think of it. But the big canal that connects from the one side of the South America to the other side. And Panama Canal. That's what it is. The Panama Canal. Anyway, it's that type of a lock, where the boats come from one side and then the water level changes and then they go out the other side. So if you are walking across the bridge, it's one of those metal grate bridges, with the holes all the way through it. If you're going across when the water is high, there's not much room between you and the water. But if you're going after they've let the water out, there's a huge amount of space between you and the water. Well, I didn't realize that I didn't like that drop situation, but I quickly did realize it, because when we went to go across the fish ladder, there was a fish ladder on the other side of the locks, which we wanted to go because they had windows that you could see through under the water, and it was really neat to watch how these fish got up this lock, because they couldn't jump it anymore, and they needed to get up to do their spawning. So it was a very interesting thing to go and see. Well, we started to walk across this this bridge, this metal grate bridge. And all of a sudden I was about halfway across, and I realized how far down under my feet that water was. And I, for the first time in my life, was literally frozen in fear. I could not take another step. I was stuck there. And I thought, oh, how am I going to get across here, right? And the person I was with was quite impatient. Come on, and I said, I can't take another step. I can't turn around to go back. Like, I was stuck there. Well, anyway, this older gentleman, I say older gentleman, he probably was not that old, but I was young, and I thought that was old at that point. Now I realize it wasn't, but you know, he was older. Well, anyway, he come out and he said to me, "Dear, I can get you across." And I said, "I don't think so." And he says, "Yes, I can." He says, "I know exactly what to do." He says, "My wife has similar issues." And he says, "We've learned a way of doing it." So he said, "Trust me." So he says to me, "Put your hands in my belt." And I said, "All right." So I put my hands in his belt and he says, "Don't look anywhere else. Look at your hands." He says, "Don't you look anywhere else. Look at your hands." And as he took a step, then automatically I took a step because I had to keep up with his pants, right? So anyway, I realized afterwards how stupid we must have looked. Him, an older gentleman, walking with this young person attached to his pants back to get across the thing. But anyway, we got across and I thanked him very much for helping me, and then realized that our car was on the other side. I said we either have to wait for the locks to change and the water to come back up, or my friend was going to have to go around and drive around the whole thing to come and pick me up, which is what they decided to do. So they went back, got the car, and drove around, and I didn't have to face going back the other way. But that, I was frozen with fear. Now with Parkinson's, I don't get frozen with fear. I do get frozen, but there's no fear. All right, I'll talk to you all tomorrow.